There's been a lot of external noise about how the club's travelling and that sort of thing. A lot of it quite violent and pretty aggressive.
Violent?
What are you making of it? How do you feel? Is it fair enough? Is it?
Oh, look, I think.
Surprise you?
No, I think there's got to be an element of fact about the criticism. The fact is we haven't finished off games well this year at all. 15 out of 17 games, I think we've been in front halfway through the third quarter. So there's a lot of good to take out of that, but there's obviously some concerns about how we're finishing off games, and inability to do that is some of the things I don't think we can fix this year in regards to fitness and speed, but some we can really work on. In the back half, we've got 5 more games to work on it, and we're up for the fight, you know. So, but the criticism is justified. You know, we've probably let 5 games slip, which puts you in a lot of different position. So we wouldn't be having some of these conversations if that was the case, but that's reality.
How much of it is fitness out of it? You've thrown the word fitness in there.
Well, you've got to look at it. I think you've got to look at it. You know, fitness, you know, mental capacity to grind out a game. So all I can say is we're going to embrace the next time we confront that situation. So that's all we can do. And you know, we've talked about it enough with our players. So this competition's about action. So that's our next step, is to produce it on field and accept whatever criticism comes our way. But that's reality. We've been in really good positions almost every week. I think perhaps the Hawthorn game early in the year and the Essendon game were the 2 games that were out of our reach. So there's some really good signs to take from that and how we prepare and what we're doing. But for whatever reason, which a lot of it will stay internal, we're not getting it done.
If you're saying fitness and mental capacity is not, can you still contend though if you're in this situation?
Well, we're up for the fight. So, I mean, no one can predict what's going to happen in the future. So, you know, we're aware we're in a bit of transition too with our list and our profile. So we're not shying away from that, but that's not an excuse either. We're aware that some of our players are getting towards the back half of their careers. And you'll see a really different looking type of squad in the next 12 months. But we're still here for the now. You know, the guys put so much effort into preparing and training to be into this position, and give up is ridiculous. So we won't be doing that.
One of your veteran players is Mark LeCras. He copped a fair bit from a former teammate of yours. The comments that I don't want to see him again, how do you react to that?
They're irrelevant to me, what David says about my players. You know, he can make his comments and judgments. I'm not going to fight that fight with those guys. Like I said, the ball's in Pritaleka's court. So, you know, if he can produce this week, that's up to him. But to suggest he will never play again, that's someone's opinion, not mine.
Are you expecting a big reaction from Leka? Do you know if he knows? Will he be following?
Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't actually heard it. I've heard it secondhand, some of the commentary, but we can't worry about that. I think it's about what we need to do, not what David wants us to do.
So what about, there's even been calls for your head. How do you react to that?
Yeah, I haven't listened to those commentary either, but look, we've since 2015, I think we've won the 3rd most games. So, you know, we're going through a rough patch at the moment, but I'm up for the fight. So, yeah, that's football. That's the pressure of the game. So that'll come. I'm not sure what when you talk about pressure. I think our competition is you pressure every day, every week, whether you're on top of the ladder or you're bottom. That comes with the job. So no, I don't feel any different than I did last week or last year. What's important is that I give the club and our players direction, and we're really clear about where we're going.
Is Mark LeCras, A, is he playing for his future, and B, will he play this weekend?
Well, we haven't had match committee yet, and look, he's getting at the back end of his career, so as a lot of our players. So that'll take its due course in coming weeks and months and maybe next year. So I'm not in the position to talk about that.
Can you confide anything in terms of a discussion you might have had with Mark LeCras about how he handles the next 5 weeks then?
No, I won't confide in that. But the conversations are ongoing. He's done a lot for our club. He's been an A-grade talent, an A-grade player. So to talk about his future publicly, I think that's disrespectful.
But you have spoken with him in the last few days?
Yeah, the conversations are ongoing with a lot of our players in that space.
What's he lacking at the moment, aside from, you know, we see him say, oh, he hasn't kicked a goal and whatever?
Yeah, I don't think we can judge his game. Well, we had, I mean, in the last quarter, we had 7 inside 50s. So our supplies dried up on occasions this year. I suppose, to be perfectly frank with his form, it's probably the good's pretty good and the bad's pretty bad. You know, the 2 weeks before that, we were pretty happy with his performance. So, like I said, we'll work through it and we'll keep you informed as best we can.
There's
What's
a lot
your
of external...
relationship with David King, and would you ring him about his comments? Because they were quite scathing.
Honestly, I'd be unfair to everyone to suggest that I actually heard it. So it was secondhand. But when you have a performance like that as a collective, I think you've got to accept criticism. Yeah, it's what you do about it that's important. So, no, I won't be giving Kingy a call.
There's a lot of external noise about playing Luke Partington. Would you bow to that, or is he likely to play, or do you think will it be?
Yeah, I get that asked a lot, and every time. And Luke's a young player; he's in his 2nd year. I just hope you're not building him up to fail, because I'm not sure if anyone watches East Perth and watches the performance, and he's getting some good numbers, but there's more to footy than just getting the ball. So he's not far off, and he'll get an opportunity, but he's in his 2nd year and he's had a really good patch of form, and I understand the questions, but I think if anyone asking those questions, you've got to do the research and have a really good look at how he's playing, and he's playing well, but to suggest he's going to come in and dominate the competition, I think we just got to take a deep breath, but he's not far off.
Is his disposal efficiency one of the issues?
I'm not going to go into what he needs to work on publicly. He's in his 2nd year, so like most kids in their 2nd year, there's some strengths, and the good thing is he's playing to his strengths, which is he's finding the ball and he's hitting the scoreboard. So that's exciting. I mean, those kids coming through like that is something we're really working on. I think we had 6 or 7 players 23 or under on the weekend, and that's part of what we want to look forward to as well. So, and Luke will be part of that.
So fitness and pace is your deficiencies.
Well, no, I said we have to address those things. We've got to look at those things, and if that is the deficiency, we can't fix that now. So clearly we've got to look at how we go about that process. I think it's a bit more than that.
With this review, do you look at your recruiting as well as to who you did get and who you didn't get, and what sort of players you picked in the off-season to try to address those things?
Oh, no, not really. No, that's probably for another time. But, you know, our recruiting from last year, we actually haven't had a chance to play some of our boys. They've been injured, Rioli and Venables. You know, we had a mature age rookie in Drew, which has probably really helped us at stages this year in terms of our talls. And Sam was for nothing, really. So, yeah, the opportunity to play those kids just haven't been there through injury this year.
With Venables, and it is a hypothetical, I know, but would Venables and Rioli probably have played ahead of Partington had they been fit?
Let's park the who in front of who, but they would have definitely played seniors this year. In fact, I think Venables was due for a selection and then he got injured at training, probably a minute after I told him. So we're excited about that. I know there's some pressure on performance at the moment, and we haven't, you know, come up to scratch with our second halves in particular. But we think there's really good growth underneath, and sometimes when you look at the age profile, you think that's not justified, but you'll see the change pretty quick.
Is there room for Sam and Matty Prentice in the same team?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're working through that, and we'll work through that to the rest of the year. You know, it depends who you play and where you play, but yeah, I see them as separate type of players, and at their best, they're a great combination. So we're working through that.
So if Prentice is re-signed, that means most probably Sam will retire if you think they can't play together.
I didn't say they can't play together. We've had plenty of wins this year when they've been in the same side. So, yeah, we'll, look, these guys, and there's a number of them, we'll work through that in the coming weeks and months, and all will be revealed in the next 6 to 12 months.
Not taking Sam Powell-Pepper, that's the one that'll be raised, because he'll probably win the Rising Star, and he could have played all season. Did you make a mistake not taking Powell-Pepper?
It's just too early to reflect on that, and that's a list management call that I'm part of, but that's unfair to talk about that.
Are you concerned about Pritis' form and having signed him for another year? I mean, possessions-wise, he's down, but I mean, tackles on the weekend were quite impressive. So are you concerned though that he's not having the influence that he has?
Oh, look, I think at his best, and at the moment we're trying to rotate some young players through that midfield as well. So you know, his opportunity's not the same as it used to be. So we've got to take that into consideration. He's played some really good footy this year, and he's played some games that have been a bit down. So, like I said before, we'll work through that, and you know what Pritter does in the future is up to him. He's contracted for next year, so we'll work through all those situations as we go forward.
Is he carrying anything?
Oh, here and there, but you know, this time of year, I'm assuming there's more than just, you know, the 30-plus-year-olds are carrying a bit of soreness.
Is there a chance he won't play on next year, even though he has signed
Oh,
on?
that's not for me to talk about now.
Is the attitude right, Adam? Jonathan Brown said all the players seem to care about his fishing.
I did hear that. Like I said, you know, to try and dismiss what's happening late in games is silly. So, but we've got to look at the whole part, and we're really pleased about what we're delivering for 2.5 quarters. There's a real concern about how we're finishing off games, and anyone who we play knows that. So that's something we've got to embrace. And the work rate, the speed, the fitness, the method, all those things aren't a concern until later in games. So we've got to work our way through it and really embrace it. We've got to walk towards the pressure.
Well, you can't change your fitness, and you can't change your speed. Really, you can only change your method or blokes who are out there. So what do you do the next 5 weeks? Are you going to put new blokes in, or are you going to change?
Well, that's our challenge. That's what's exciting. I mean, as much as there is a bit of doom and gloom at the moment, I'm still up for it. So we'll work really hard to try different things and explore different ways to go about it. But we also can't dismiss the fact we've won 9 games and the season's still alive. So we'll get that balance right.
With some disrespect to some of your contenders, so Aston, Wellingham, Hill, would your priority be to go back to younger players? If you just talked about trying to experiment a bit, do you go to the younger boys as a priority?
Oh, I think that's a good question. There's a tipping point. I don't think we can, you know, there's got to be a bit of integrity with selection as well. So, you know, planning for the now and the future is really important. So, you know, those guys have been really good servants for the club, and if they play well and they deserve to play, we've got to look at that. But we've also got to look at the kids coming through. And like I said, I think we've got a pretty good balance in our side at the moment. I mean, if you took out Drew from the weekend, we would have been younger than Collingwood. So, not that it's about birth certificates, it's just reality, and we've got a real eye on what we're doing going forward. But that doesn't mean we just dismiss anyone who's over 28. So we've got to work through that pretty smartly.
And clearly you needed Drew because of the injuries to your ruckman.
Yeah.
Do you think the decision to recruit Sam as a player as opposed to as a future coach, do you think that's worked, or has it sort of caused you some speed humps?
Yeah, that is another good question. I think Sam's delivered pretty good performances this year. So I think when he's been in the side, it's been a pretty positive result. Don't think his form's dropped off too much. As a collective, you know, we haven't got it done on occasions. I don't think that's because Sam's been in or out of the side, or the mix of that midfield's been part of it. But I think there's other issues we've got to work through as well. So he's been a revelation for our group in terms of leadership and direction, and his next phase of his life will be decided, you know, this year or next. But he's an important part of our future at the club.
If he was capable of travelling as your emergency, so someone pulls up sick on Sunday morning and he plays, so you can't have been too bad. Any regrets now not playing him in a game you've dropped, and now we're talking where you're at in finals?
Yeah, that's justified. He was a little bit sore. But could have got up. I mean, the percentage of your emergency getting a game is pretty low, and we want to try and get some games into our young guys at East Perth. So that's a fair enough question. But no, I don't really believe in that.
Does he return this week?
He'll be back this week.
How many changes would you be busy? I know you haven't had a match.
No, what day is it today? It's Wednesday.
Do you have to be ruthless though at the selection?
Well, I think we've been in that phase. So I think we've got to, you know, the integrity of match committee is really important, but we've also got to look at, you know, winning this week. So that'll come.
So what happened to the contested ball in the last quarter? We saw that amazing stat where 13 players did not have a contested possession. I think Pritis might have been a bit on the bench, but the rest of them Where did it go? It's not your fault, obviously.
Well, I think that's the question we've got to ask. You know, is it, and the phases that I spoke about earlier about physical, mental, you know, capabilities, all those things. So that's what we're going to get right. So that's the thing we can control, is effort. So that'll be our main focus this week.
So you talked about, I think it was after the Port Adelaide game, you talked about the question mark being your ability to sustain what you produced for 2 quarters in that game. Have you had concerns that your players aren't fit enough?
I don't think we can direct it purely to that. You know, the GPS will suggest that, you know, that's, you know, there's been drop-offs in our last quarter, but on the weekend I think it was pretty similar. So we're looking at everything. We really are. And the one thing we can get right is our effort. So the other stuff, we'll work through that. But at the moment, we've got to get the balance right and play a team that's willing to fight for 4 quarters.
Maybe you are. Maybe you're too old as well. Maybe was it because you're the oldest team in the comp? Is that?
Yeah, I think I might have answered that earlier, Barry. I mean, we've got 2 players in that side that push everything up. I mean, if anything, the last 7 or 8 minutes, I thought our kids probably got exposed with a few efforts here and there. Not efforts, but just got caught in the, you know, on the big stage. So the age profile of our list will change very, very quickly. I guarantee you that.
So probably if Wellingham and Maston played, you probably would have won.
Oh, that's it's too simplistic to say that.
That's what you were alluding to.
Well, no, I'm not alluding to that at all. No.
What about the pace of the game in the whole competition? You've got some slower moving midfielders and even some slower moving boys. Are they working their backsides off for 2.5, 3 quarters and then they're spent? And it's not such a fitness thing, it's just they're giving everything they can. The game's just too quick.
Well, I don't want to go into the depths of those conversations. You know, we're working through everything we can. But we understand there's a problem, so I'm not going to deny that. But we'll work through it and we'll see how we go this week.
And you're under pressure to play some kids, but you're also under pressure to win. You're not really in a position to play, to almost feed them in more than dribs and drabs, are you? Because you need experience out there. You need to get those 3 wins between now and then.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of where we're at. That's why there's optimism. Because if we can get it right for the now and develop for the future, then that's exciting. So, yeah, like I said, we've got to get that balance right, and that's our challenge. But we can't dismiss our whole list, and we can't just bottom out and just play the kids and just write off the season. It's still up for grabs. So we'll do everything we can to win this week and keep an eye on the future as well.
What about guarding against, because you know what's going to happen, you're going to beat Brisbane, things will look a lot rosier.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
This is me talking.
That's you talking,
They've
yeah.
lost
Well,
their best midfielder. They're coming here, they've got a terrible record here. You'll probably beat them. Then you've got to go back to Melbourne. That's going to be the game, isn't it? That's St Kilda game.
No, I'll tell you what the game is. It is this week. And to dismiss Brisbane like that is disrespectful.
No,
I don't even want to hear. I don't think that's part of where we are up for this week. That's all I'm thinking about. Next week will take care of itself, but this week is the most important game of the year for us. So we need to get that right.
Does Nick play this year?
He's going to play this week. No. Nick's real positive news in the last few weeks with what we've all seen. So that's exciting for everyone. And I said this before, makes you realise what we've got coming back. And along with Scott Lycett, who's played 1 game, that's going to be really important for us going forward. But what it's probably done this year is it's exposed to some areas we really need to work on. And you'd have to reflect on the ruck situation that we have confronted this year. I mean, Grundy was one of the best players on the weekend. Gawn touched us up, Ryder. So there's been some areas we've been exposed, but that's also really good growth and learning for Vardy.
So if you keep winning, if you win this week, perhaps win the week after, so is that going to be more likely that Nick would play then if you're within touch of? I
haven't even spoken to Nick, so that's, yeah.
When's that conversation with him?
The boys aren't in today, so I need to catch up with him, but probably more the medical staff really, because I know what Nick's going to say. So, look, there's 5 weeks to go in the season, and I'd say you need every minute of that to get ready to be AFL ready. So, he hasn't trained for 2 or 3 weeks with a footy, albeit he's done some tremendous work in that rehab program. So let's just see how that goes, but they're not connected. The season and Nick's return, strangely enough, aren't connected.
So So you're playing for one game perhaps, against Adelaide last game of the season if he's available?
I wish I could say yes, but at the moment I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it.
What about Lysette? Does he play this week?
Yeah, we need to test him out on Thursday. If he can't get up this week, then I think we're going to have to ice him for the year.
Has this been your toughest press conference since starting as coach?
No, not really. No, I think the tough ones are after games like we had on the weekend. You know, straight after it, because like our fans, your heart's bleeding. So, and you know, that's the raw emotion after a game is the hardest. And when we're putting ourselves in a position to win and we don't, you know, and we think we can control a lot of that, they're the difficult times. And that's why I think people are so frustrated, in particular this week, and I totally understand that.
What did you say to your players at Etihad Stadium Sunday afternoon?
It was pretty brief, pretty emotional, and yeah, that's about as far as we'll go with that one.
Do you think David King's forgotten how hard footy is?
Oh no, he was best on every week, Kingy. He never didn't chase David. So, oh look, he's a premiership teammate. I have respect for David, but I don't have to respect everything he says.
Do you feel like you're hanging on to your job, Adam, or are you more confident than most people seem to think?
No, I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, all I can say is I'm up for the fight, and I'm really optimistic about our future.
Have you had any security, any assurances from board or management this week at all? Have you needed that?
No, I haven't needed that.
You're still the man for the job, aren't you?
Well, I think I am. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're a better coach than you were in 2015 when the team played?
Oh, look, I'm obviously a lot more experienced and going through ups and downs. I think in our first year we lost 7 out of 8 games at one stage, so that was a pretty steep learning curve. And look, it's about us as a collective, really. So I'm not really thinking about myself at the moment. It's about how we can get the back half of the season right and have some real growth in the future.
Are you preparing to make some tough calls on some reasonably big names at West Coast Eagles?
Oh, I think clubs go through transition a lot with experienced players. So, you know, what's really important is we identify where we're at as a club. So I think we're pretty clear where we think we are at internally, and we'll make decisions in due course.